Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today I want to talk about the premium Tier 7 Italian battleship Roma. Specifically though, I want to talk about which commander I think is the better choice for this ship, now that we actually have choices, two of them in fact. And thus, I have two clips spliced together for you for the purposes of this discussion. This first clip features the Roma with Littorio at the helm. She is, of course, the fictional premium accuracy commander, and that is, of course, another discussion in and of itself, the fact that we only have a fictional premium commander that costs real money for an accuracy build. Hopefully, they will implement a free accuracy commander later on in the game. The second clip, though, features the classic Paolo di Revel at the helm, and I'm here to disclose to you immediately, right off the bat, that I much prefer Revel to be at the helm of this ship than Littorio. And keep in mind, this is my opinion. I think this opinion may be different from a lot of other people's opinions, but I am going to try to justify it by pointing to facts and using my trademark logic to make a case for you. You can feel free to disagree with this case, of course, if you want in the comments, and let me know why you prefer the accuracy commander over the, what I like to call, more survivability commander. Now let's pause for a second, because that hit against the Iowa there at long range was pretty good. It resulted in a citadel and 23,000 hit points lost for that enemy vessel. So there's no question that Littorio, the accuracy commander, does make the accuracy on the Roma better. I don't think you could get a similar shot on the Iowa with Revel at the helm as often or as consistently as you could with Littorio. That doesn't mean you couldn't get a similar shot against a similar target with Revel at the helm. Of course you can. It's just a little bit more of a toss-up as soon as you shoot the guns, whether they're all going to come down and strike the Iowa's citadel, or whether they're going to fall into the water or hit some part of the ship where they overpenetrate, whatever the case is. So the accuracy commander does improve the accuracy. The question, though, is, does that improvement outweigh what you're giving up should you choose to use Revel instead? And for that, I think we need to point something out. In this game, there are, sort of, broadly speaking, two flavors of battleships, right? There's the more medium to long-range battleship, which excels at map control by use of its guns. It wants to position itself in a place where it has access to broadside ships, which are pushing toward the objective. And those battleships, in my mind, they're sort of the American kind of battleships, like, say, the Iowa, the North Carolina, the Montana, that kind of thing. These ships excel at more medium to longer ranges. Same thing with ships like the Yamato. They aren't brawlers in any kind of true sense for various reasons. First, their guns have long range and they're accurate at long range, so there's that. Second, they tend to have poor maneuverability characteristics in the sense that, they don't turn necessarily very quickly. Perhaps their turning circle is big, their rudder shift time is slow, they're just not very maneuverable in close quarters situations. And those are ships that I think, or at least that kind of ship, is the kind of ship that excels under the direction of an accuracy commander for a battleship. Whereas there are other types of battleships that are more close-range brawlers, sort of like the Russian or the German battleships, and I think the Roma falls into that latter category. It's a brawling battleship in the same way that something like the Vladivostok is a brawling battleship, in that it has excellent armor plating, especially if you're facing bow in. It's very difficult for the enemy to damage you if you're bow in or if you're angling properly. With AP, very, very difficult to get any kind of penetrations under those circumstances, and the armor is generally good enough in many places to shatter a good deal of high explosive and protect you from that kind of damage. The weakness, of course, is the side armor, which if you present flatly to the enemy, well, they can penetrate that side armor very easily, and they can destroy you very quickly. The Roma is that kind of ship. It excels when it's able to push in and brawl. And you can see in this first game here with Littorio at the helm, I initially started off further away, playing it more like an Iowa or North Carolina, that kind of thing, sort of adopting that style of accuracy battleship play. And I really just don't think, even with Littorio at the helm, the Roma is suited for that kind of play style. No, I think it wants to push in no matter what, which is why I find myself pushing in here right now. The problem is that the accuracy commander does not come with any survivability perks, and you can see I have 0 repair party consumables left. I cannot heal, and I'm down to roughly 20,000 hit points, plus I'm getting lit on fire left and right. If you're going to use the accuracy commander on the Roma, then you're going to be stuck with the base 3 heals, and one of the accuracy skills that I think most people probably use on their accuracy builds is Flammable Cannoneer, which increases the chance that you'll be set on fire. And fire damage is very dangerous to battleships that want to push in. In fact, if you do want to push in, then I think you almost have to be resistant to fire damage in one way or another. And since Flammable Cannoneer increases the chance that you'll be lit on fire, well, there's a tick in one of the major con boxes of the accuracy build. And you can see here, as we've pushed in just a little bit, there's no way we can survive any longer, and we're going to be taken down, mostly due to our lack of survivability. And this right here is the reason that I think Paolo di Revel is the better choice on the Roma. And here is a game with Revel at the helm. Now, the reason I say that Revel is a better choice is because there are 2 flavors of battleship commander in the game, right? There is the accuracy battleship commander like Littorio, or like classic, more recognizable battleship commanders, i.e. William Sims for the American line or Takagi for the Japanese line. These guys are all about buffing the accuracy of the guns, buffing the range of the guns, and their skills come at the expense of maneuverability in certain cases, increased fire chance, and they come at the expense of survivability skills. Meanwhile, the so-called brawler battleship commanders, or as I like to call them, the survivability battleship commanders, like Revel, or like Willis Lee, Ciliax, those kind of guys, they all have skills that increase the survivability tremendously, and no skills that impose worse fire penalties on you or maneuverability penalties. So, Revel has a skill called Firefighter, which decreases the chance you'll be lit on fire, and on top of that, he has a skill called Master Mechanic, which increases your repair party count. And these are the 2 skills that I think the Roma benefits from above all. And I think having these 2 skills outweighs any benefit you're going to get with more accurate guns. Because with the Roma, you want to be able to push in. And because of the meta in which we currently find ourselves, with a lot of HE spam out there, well, the HE spam from high DPM cruisers is designed to prevent ships from pushing in. That's what these cruisers excel at, like the Mines in front of us, who has just been taken out, or the Cleveland, or ships like that. High DPM light cruisers. What they want to do is take up a position on the map where they can rain down hellfire upon you, and dissuade you from pushing in closer to some objective that they're protecting, or their teammates, or themselves, or the like. And that HE spam is very effective at doing it. Not only can it penetrate the ship in certain places, but it also lights fires. So, if you want to be a ship like the Roma, which pushes in and gets into brawling situations, then you want to take commander skills that make it easier for you to do that by increasing your survivability. So that firefighter skill makes it less likely that you're going to be lit on fire in the first place. There's that to begin with. And then the master mechanic skill gives you extra repair parties to deal with the damage that you're going to take if you are lit on fire, or if you take high explosive penetration, or even standard armor piercing penetrations. The more heals you have, the longer you can stay in the game, the more aggressive you can afford to be, the more replaceable hit points you can afford to lose. And this right here, this situation, is why I actually selected this clip to be the background footage for this discussion, because here we are facing off against 3 enemy battleships right in front of us. And the Roma is a very, very tanky ship when it's angled or when it's bow in. These 3 battleships are going to struggle to take us down. In fact, I don't think they're actually going to shoot at us. We have some teammates around us. Okay, some of them are shooting at us, but mostly they're going to shoot at the teammates surrounding me because they understand that shooting at an angled or bow-in Roma is not a fruitful endeavor. They are not going to get a lot of damage with their armor piercing. The ship is just far too tanky for it. And as a result, I think this is where the ship excels, at close range brawls, when it can push in much like a Russian battleship. Now, it's not a brawler in the same way as the German battleships are, of course, because it doesn't have a turtleback armor scheme, so it's not resistant to citadels at all. You can't give broadside with it. If you do, you will be punished, and this is why we're looking so intently at this Odin. The Massachusetts in front of us is zero threat whatsoever. He is bow in, reversing away from the threat. He can't maneuver. His maneuverability is compromised. He can shoot at our bow, but he's not going to do a lot of damage. The Odin, on the other hand, is trying to flank us, and if he can get access to our broadside, his 305mm guns, while they may not be as threatening as 15 or 16-inch guns, they can certainly punch through our broadside armor and deal a massive ton of damage to us, so we want to take him out as quickly as possible. And you can see the accuracy on these guns without Littorio on the helm. Well, they're not that great, the accuracy. They're not that reliable. You do kind of have to just sling them out there, and sometimes nothing whatsoever is going to happen. And that is certainly a trade-off with using the survivability commander. But I think the extra survivability you get with di Revel actually suits this ship a lot better than the accuracy build, and I think it plays to its strengths. The lack of accuracy and the lack of consistency is a downside, and that's something that a lot of players maybe don't like in their battleships, but that doesn't mean you can't deal damage. It just means you have to work a little bit differently to get it, and you have to be more aggressive and time your pushes and that kind of thing. So this is ultimately why I think Revel is the better choice, and why I'm going to be sticking with him on the Roma. Even though the guns are more accurate with Littorio, and even though that accuracy is nice in certain situations, the Roma is just not one of those ships that you play at medium to long range. It's a ship that likes to close in and likes to tank. And we've done a fair amount of tanking in this sequence here against these 3 battleships. We'll end up finishing this game with a dreadnought medal. And you can see we've used 3 of our repair parties, right? But we still have 2 more left over, and the penultimate one is less than 30 seconds away from being off of cooldown. In this situation, if I were running Littorio, I would not be able to regain this health, and I would probably be on the verge of being sunk here. But as it stands, my repair party is about to come off cooldown. I'm going to be able to pop that, and I'm going to be able to gain over, like, say, 10,000 hit points, which means it's going to be difficult for this Massachusetts to take me out in a single salvo. And so long as I continue to take damage from him, like fire damage from his secondaries, as he is still floating, I'll have another repair party left over to use later on in the game to gain just a little bit more hit points. This survivability is what you need if you want to be an effective close-in brawler battleship like I think the Roma is. And now this Massachusetts is about to go down. Of course, we don't take him down there. There's a little bit of the guns being unreliable. But he is about to go down. And basically, I wanted to juxtapose these two clips because I think this sort of shows the difference between the brawler, or the survivability commander, and the accuracy commander. The accuracy commanders are good on battleships that like to play at medium to long range ones, but in my mind, the Roma just isn't that ship. And thus, I think Paolo di Revel remains the better choice. And I certainly think he's the better choice for the entire Italian battleship tech tree line, if not just because of their SAP secondaries, but also because they get 4 repair parties base. So why wouldn't you want to buff that to 6 repair parties with Master Mechanic on Revel? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Let me know what you think of my philosophy on the Roma builds in the comments section. Give the video a thumbs up before you go. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.